This video is all about finding out exactly which type of security system is best for you. Hiya, I'm Simon from Simon Security Expert, and on today's video I want to go through some different types of people and what security systems suit their needs best. Likelihood is you'll fall into one of these 7 categories that we'll go through now. There's no right or wrong. Some people just have different needs and wants to other people, or different types of abilities. That means some people should go one way and some people should go another way. Now in these 7 examples, I think I cover everyone. We go over their needs, exactly what type of system that they should install or should have in their homes. And by the end of this video, you'll have a much better idea of exactly what kind of system will suit you best. So to begin, let's go to person number 1, or avatar number 1. Okay. Tech savvy DIYer. Now, this kind of person is the kind of person who feels comfortable installing systems themselves, following, say, YouTube setup videos, following instructions, knowing that you don't need a great deal of DIY ability. You need to be able to use a drill a couple of holes, for certain sensors, or stick certain sensors on, plug things in, but just in general, have a confidence in just installing something yourself. Some people do, some people don't, but if you're a tech savvy person with, some confidence in your installation skills, then a DIY system could be perfect for you. These can be great because they can save you a lot of money. They can be set up really easily, just a few hours out your day, and you can be all done with your own security system. You can decide exactly what you want, exactly what you need, and go from there. So let's go on to avatar number 2. Okay, so this type of customer is essentially someone who just doesn't have time. Maybe they're technically savvy, maybe they've got the ability to put in their own system, but essentially they're so busy with everything else. It might be work, it might be family life, it might be, looking after members of the family that they have to look after, things like that, carers and things. In this case, if this fits you, I would advise you to go for a professionally installed system, whether from a local company or a national company. It doesn't really matter, as long as it's someone you trust and someone you know will do a good job. Doing it this way should mean you just don't give up any of your time if it's very valuable and you've got the money to pay a bit more for a professional to come out and install the system. Type number 3. Technophobe. Now this is someone who just doesn't in any way like working with, say, app-based systems or smart home automation or smart systems or anything like that. In this case, you need a particular type of security system. A perfect example of something I would recommend is like a Veritas 8 or a Veritas R8. Now these are very basic panels. They haven't got network capability. There's no app involved, but you essentially can just press a button to set, put your code into unset, and press a different button to night set, and don't have to worry about extra features or anything like that. I'd advise it being put in again by a professional installer, maybe even cabled. Say a V8 or an R8 is a cabled system. These are some of the most basic systems you can get, but very effective, have worked for years, and it's just means it's something you don't have to worry about anything when you have these systems installed. Very basic to use, really easy. If you go for a really basic system, you'll be golden with them. Say there's other systems as well, Ascentas, G4s, Veritas V8, R8. These kind of systems will be great for you. Basic, wired, bulletproof, and it means you won't have to worry about how to use it or anything like that. So, leads us on to number 4. Oh, notification. This, number 4, is a tech-savvy person, but hates installing. This is where essentially I'd advise you going for a professionally installed system, but you can go for a system that's got smart home capabilities. You're happy to use an app, no problem there. You understand all the technical side of it and have no issues in that sense, but you just hate installing. You've never used a drill. You don't know how to use a drill. You don't know how to do anything with any kind of setup or any physical hardware. DIY systems are getting easier and easier and easier now, but it could be the case it's just not what you want to do. You don't have confidence in your own ability with installing, which is absolutely fine, by the way. Then you can go for a smart system, but installed by a professional company. So let's lead on to number 5. So this one is high risk site. This is for a particular person who might have some form of property that is very high risk. Let me give you some examples. You might have a domestic property with seriously high valuables inside, like watches or very, very valuable cars, things that people really want to steal. Or if you've got a commercial premises, right, where people are going to want to break into. For example, we had a particular site that constantly people were trying to turn over all the time. Thankfully, they never did because of our security setups in place. But inside this commercial building that was only occupied from 9 a.m. till about 7 p.m., after that point, there was equipment in there, specific types of equipment that was very easy to steal because it was small but very valuable in large quantities. So, oh my God, they were trying to do that place over all the time. They were coming from the roof, opening panels, trying to get in there. They were cutting network cables in the street. They were getting up to the sounders and ripping the sounders off, doing everything they could to try and make sure that they could get in there. So they'd do that and then they'd try and come back later if they saw that no one had really responded to the threat. We always did respond to the threat, always got it sorted. They never got broken into. But if you've got a high risk site, go for an NSI Gold company that's here in the UK. Other companies will have other accreditation levels. Get a minimum of a grade 2 professionally installed system. And in this case, if it's domestic, wireless is fine. If it is commercial, I'd say wired, especially if it's a large site and you can put wires in place. But NSI Gold company who can do police response systems so that you can have security where the alarm goes off, the police will go on their way. So that's a great setup if you're someone with a high risk site. So, number 6. Physically limited. This is for someone who maybe is technically able to actually do the install and is tech savvy, but for some reason isn't able to physically do the install. Say if someone's elderly or someone's been in an accident and someone's been disabled, there's a couple of options. Of course, you can always go down the professional route, but you could always go down the DIY system as well, and maybe a family member who's also fine and savvy in that sense can install it for you there as well, and they can just guide them through exactly what they want. So both options on there, either will work. It depends what you want. Maybe if you're someone who is disabled and you're on your own a lot and you're worried a little bit about false alarms or anything like that, or needing someone to come out and sort it, and you'd rather have the option of a local engineer coming out, you can then do that. I'd say get a local installer to come out knowing you're on a maintenance contract with them, okay, and keep the system being serviced with them so that if you have any problems, you can call them and they'll get an engineer out to you as quickly as possible. I wouldn't say this is best to go for a national company, okay? Go for a local installer with good reviews and you'll be spot on with that one. Number 7. Temporary. Temporary is, say, renters or people who just aren't going to be at a property for a long time. Maybe they buy somewhere and then they're going to do that place up and then move to another place. In that case, a DIY system is absolutely perfect for you because you can just plug the panel in, like on the Godfather, my own system, you can plug the panel in, you can put your sensors dotted around wherever you want, and then essentially when the time comes that you're moving off to another property, you can just unplug that, take all your equipment down, and then move it with you to the next property. So that's great for DIYers. It's not really worth getting a professionally installed system in those cases at all, unless you're doing it specifically for home insurance and your home insurance has demanded that you have a professionally installed system, which is very, very rare, to be honest. Actually, in general, if you were doing on your own home insurance, I'd actually recommend you to put that you haven't got a burglar alarm rather than you have got a burglar alarm. I know that sounds a bit weird to come from me to say it, but let me just break down the reason why. The reason why is if you put down that you've got a burglar alarm on your home insurance, when it's not demanding it, it's just asking you the question, right? The difference in the premium might be like £10 for the year. Honestly, it's minimal, right? But if you put it down that you've got a burglar alarm and then you get broken into on a night that you forgot to put the burglar alarm on, look, we're all human. Sometimes we can forget, or sometimes you might have family staying over in a room downstairs, so you leave it off on purpose. And then all you're doing there is giving the insurance company a way out of actually paying out for the claim. They might say, oh, hold on, you said you've got a burglar alarm on your system here. And you go, yeah, I know, but I didn't use it. And they go, oh, okay, well, we're not paying out. So to just avoid that, I'd actually just on the drop-down list say that you either haven't got a burglar alarm system or you don't want to include it as an add-on onto your policy. the difference it's honestly, it's minimal. It's really small, 10, maybe 20 pounds, and it'll just save you the headache if ever you do have a break-in, which I hope you never do, and then you haven't put your alarm on, so it just protects you from that. It's worth paying the extra 10 or 20 quid. Maybe you'd like to see a video on how to make your property look as unattractive as possible to any would-be burglar. So if that is the case, click here.